Isn't it nice to know that there will never be a time when you will not be reaching for yet something beyond where you are? We think it's nice to know because it's what causes the eternal nature of all that we all are. In other words, if life could not cause that further expansion, then there would not be more. And in order to be the eternal beings that we are, there must be something more. That new desire is the furthermost vantage point that is summoning everything else forward. And so when contrast, which often you think you don't want, produces a new clarity of what you do want, in the moment that that desire is born, source energy turns its undivided attention toward that new idea, so much so that it literally becomes it. Source becomes one with the new expanded version of you. That's why we say, when your life causes you to ask, it is given immediately. But in your physical form, you often say, but wait, Abraham, that can't be right because I know I'm asking for things that have not yet come to me. And we say, you have to go to them. You're asking for things that the broader non-physical part of you has become. And since your desire has caused the non-physical part of you to expand to that vibrational version of your desire, now you've got to catch up with that vibrational version of your desire. In other words, your frequencies have to match the frequencies of that new desire. Sometimes you say, but how would I know if I'm matching those frequencies? And we understand how confusing that might be to you because you do not realize, for the most part, in your physical human form, that you are more vibrational than you are anything else. And so you are not accustomed to thinking in terms of vibration and therefore feeling in terms of vibration, even though you are far more vibration than you are the expanded version in this physical flesh, blood, and bone body. In other words, all that this time-space reality is your perception because you have interpreted the vibration of it into this reality. So as you come forth into your physical body, you have the vantage point that some of you call ego. We like to call it the physical you. It is the personality that is you. It is the you that came forth into the leading edge environment, intending to sift through the data and intending to take thought beyond that which it has been before and intending to have a joyful ride in the process. So then, as you begin to move through your physical experience, you have many opportunities to feel your alignment with who you really are or not. Most humans offer most of their vibration in response to what they are observing. So if they are observing something that makes them feel good, of course they do. If they're observing something that makes them feel bad, of course they don't. And very few humans really understand that they have the choice to always choose something that feels good. What we're wanting you to understand is that your ability to align with who you are and therefore to live the joyful life that is your natural inheritance is so much simpler than trying to control the world. It's so much more simple than trying to control your children. It's so much more simple than trying to control your mate or the airline representative who is denying you a seat on the plane, or the front desk clerk who doesn't seem to have a room for you and is sending you to another hotel. In other words, when you come to understand that you have the option of looking at things in a way that align you with Source or looking at things in a way that cause resistance to that alignment, then you begin to understand that you are much more than you see here in this physical body. Now, the reason we begin with this discussion about you and you, about who you really are and about who you are in this moment, is because everything about your life, everything you feel, every moment that you live, every day that you are moving through experiences, everything hinges upon that vibrational relationship. And when you understand it, now you have creative control of your life experience. Now you have control of the way you think. Now you have control of your point of attraction. Now you have control of everything that comes to you. And most important, you have control of the way you feel. But when you are attempting to control conditions, you find that you are out of control. that is an impossible task. Jerry and Esther watched a television program last night for a moment. It was about airlines, and there was a woman standing at a counter of an airline who was being told that she could not get back on the airplane. It was said that she was intoxicated, and as Esther listened to her, she could not really see that she was intoxicated. She had some sort of a speech impediment that was apparent, but Esther did not see her as really out of control. But when she was told that she could not get back on the airplane, that she was not going to make her rendezvous with her 6-year-old son, who she was going to watch in some competition that he was all excited about, then she began to move into something that was in the area of anger. And then she was chastised for her anger. In other words, now her anger became the problem. And the more her anger became the problem, the angrier she became, until they not only denied her boarding the airplane, the police were called and she was taken to jail. And Esther said to Jerry, it's so interesting because we could see from our vantage point that the worse it gets, the worse it gets, the worse it gets, the worse it gets. But what almost nobody understood is that when she was being told that she could not have something that mattered very much to her, her feeling of powerlessness was the most dominant vibration within her. And when you have a feeling of powerlessness, Source is calling you forward, and the first step from powerlessness often is into rage. Now, you want to move it through it quickly, or they're going to lock you up. They're going to take you to anger management seminars because they don't know that you are moving in the direction of what you want. Almost no one has ever stopped to notice that I personally feel better when I am mad than when I am depressed. Almost no one has stopped to acknowledge that when I'm afraid, I feel much worse than when I am angry. And so if we were coaching this young woman, we would have coached her right into rage, maybe into revenge, but we would have encouraged her quickly to move on through that, because when you are in that place of anger, then you become a threat to those around you. And we know that that is why so many around you, frankly, liked you better when you were depressed. If that woman had gone into instant depression, if she had stayed in depression, if she had not been bold enough to come out into her place of being misunderstood, they probably would have left her alone. But she was doing what you all naturally do. In other words, so many of you would say, oh, but we must learn to restrain ourselves. And we say, so many of you have learned to restrain yourselves from your natural movement up the emotional scale that you hover somewhere around powerlessness much of your life experience. We're wanting you to find freedom in the only place that it is, and that's by allowing your natural evolution up the emotional scale. Now, certainly, as you're listening to this story, you've got to be thinking, but Abraham, you've got to be kidding. You are encouraging us to allow ourselves to move up the emotional scale, and then you tell us a story of a lady who tried that and got locked up for it. And we say, we're just wanting you to understand that it is natural for you to feel that revenge or rage when you are surrounded by others who don't understand anything about law of attraction or anything about the emotional guidance scale, who really not only don't know about your vibrational points of relativity, but don't care about your vibrational points of relativity. We're wanting you to understand that under any and all conditions, every single moment of your day, you are living the consequences of your vibrational mix. And we want you to understand that so clearly that you begin to deliberately move yourself up the emotional scale in times that don't feel so critical, so that you are more well prepared to do it in times when you might be misunderstood. There are troublemakers out there everywhere, and there are peacemakers out there everywhere. And you just got to ask yourself, who am I queuing myself up to interact with? Because the way you feel is causing law of attraction to shine the spotlight on you. In other words, troublemakers are looking for trouble. And if you've got a vibration of trouble going on, you could be utterly innocent in this moment, as this woman was, with a underlying current of trouble in your vibration. And when you got an underlying current of trouble going on in your vibration, and you're sitting next to a troublemaker on an airplane, you got trouble. And if you wait until that trouble erupts into you being taken off the airplane, Before you attempt to move up the emotional scale, you're going to move into more trouble. It's going to get worse before it gets better in terms of the way others are responding to you because they don't understand what's going on with you. What Esther would have liked to have said, if she could have jumped into the television and into the terminal and could have acted as an arbitrator for this woman, was, she is not doing anything in terms of her anger that anybody you know wouldn't do under these conditions. So she is not out of line in her response to what you're telling her. Can you imagine? She's been waiting for this opportunity for a very long time to rendezvous with this son that she's been separated from. And this was a big day for her. And it looks to her like you are standing in the way of something that she cares deeply about. And as they say, well, she should have thought of that before she drank so much. Esther would have said, all of us learn how to behave as we are trained by one another. And you are teaching her that she has to second guess everything that you might find inappropriate about her and find a way to keep herself from showing that, at least for now, to you. You're asking something that is rather impossible of her. You are explaining to her in very real terms something that you believe and you practice believing every day. You believe that she is powerless and that you hold all of the power in her life. And bit by bit, you believe that it is your job to train the public at large to just understand that. I'm in charge and you have no power. And as long as you understand that, we'll get along fine. If she were sober, she might be able to restrain herself more, as you have discovered that most of the public will do. But she's let her guard down here with these drinks that you have served her on this airplane. She's let her guard down, and so she is more natural than most people right now. And in her natural state, she is having a rebellion that says, I am not powerless. So you say, yes, you are. And she says, no, I'm not. And you say, yes, you are. And she says, no, I'm not. Every being on the planet knows naturally, innately, deeply that they are free. And when someone says you are not free and you are powerless, the next thing that you must expect is some sort of rebellion. And so, dear gate agent, who I know is well-meaning, if you are wanting fewer rebellious people in your face, I would encourage that you see them all as free. Free to choose to give their money to you for their transportation. Free to behave in a way that is congenial and comfortable with others. Free. They're free. And if you will begin to practice that in your own mind, if you will practice how free all of these lovely people are that board your airplanes, your rebellion rate will go to 0. Because it is only in your standing in their face and demanding that they aren't free that their natural resources come forth. Now, some of them are able to restrain themselves. They are the ones that you see with blood vessels bursting on the side of their heads. They are the ones you see with all of the color draining out of their face. They are the ones that you don't see having a heart attack on the way to the taxi cab. In other words, there are many people that have learned to restrain themselves, that are standing in the midst of believing because of something that you have said, gate agent, teacher, parent, whoever you are, in absolute natural defiance to your statement that they are not free. And some of them are able to hold it in for a while. So instead of blowing up right now in the terminal and getting arrested, they just hold it inside for the sake of getting along with the crowd, for the sake of not going to jail, for the sake of not making trouble, for the sake of not embarrassing their wife, for the sake of not getting thrown off the airplane, for the sake of something, as you've convinced them that you are in power. And then they just develop sickness over it as they stand in this place of powerlessness.